Welcome to our second Taipei Forum for the spring session. It just became spring, right? You told me that.
Yes, yeah. Never mind.
Last year. Speaking of last year, about a year ago, Alex gave a speech on introducing Lao Tzu. This speech is going to be continuing on with that, but more actually talking about some specifics of Lao Tzu's teachings and misconceptions, current misconceptions and historical misconceptions of Lao Tzu's teachings. So I'll keep it short and go ahead, Alex. Thanks.
Thank you, Ethan. So every time we begin to talk about Lao Tzu, we have to begin with his biography. Not because it's very interesting, but because we are not sure that there exists a Lao Tzu's biography, which means we're not sure if this person really existed. The historical records, traditional historical records, say that he was born maybe in the 6th century BC, and he was contemporary to Confucius, and they even met once, and that he was archivist in the National Library at that time, and he was disappointed of the political happenings in China, and he decided to leave this world. He went to the west, and on the border pass, the keeper of the border asked him to write a book, and then he wrote the book which is known as Tao Te Ching, and also known as Lao Tzu by his name. And the book was written in two parts, one about Tao and one about Te, the two main concepts of the book. Well, as I said, that's according to the historical records, written around 100 BC. Later, the modern scholarship came to some knowledge that actually the book was probably written much later, not in the 6th century or 5th century. And the reasons for this are many, and we don't have to go into deep analysis of this. That the book was written before the book of Zhuangzi and after the book of Mencius, which means somewhere around the 4th century BC. And why is this? Because Mencius doesn't quote Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi quotes Lao Tzu, so that's the main reason for that. And also there is like linguistic style, like the style the book was written doesn't belong to the 6th century style language. And also there are scholars who even claim that the book was written much later. And what does it mean for us today? The whole book itself is very symbolic, very metaphorically. Reading Tao Te Ching is not a very easy task, because sometimes you can be misguided or misled by what Lao Tzu says there. So today, how do we make some conceptions about Lao Tzu? We do it through commentaries that were written during the centuries. The first commentary was written probably in the 2nd or the 3rd century BC by a person called Han Fei, the master Han Fei. And then other commentaries were written, and two of them are the most popular. The one is called He Shanggong, that's the name of the author, and the other one is Wang Bi. These were written around 3rd and 4th century BC. The importance of these commentaries are these. The first one I mentioned, the He Shanggong, has a more religious interpretation of the book. From these commentaries, what we call today Taoist religion arised. The second one, Wang Bi, has more philosophical, emphasizes the philosophical aspects of the book. From these commentaries arises what we call today Taoist philosophy. Wang Bi was an amazing boy, because I said boy, not man, because he died when he was 24 years old. Probably he was studying Tao Te Ching when he was teenager, and he wrote the commentaries in his early 20s. And it's amazing that today, even after 16th, 17th century, we still rely on Wang Bi's commentaries for interpreting Lao Tzu's philosophy. Anyway, more commentaries were written even later. They all add up to one of these commentaries and to one another. And today, the modern scholarship, the modern Lao Tzu study, is actually based on all these commentaries, and they try to interpret the main concepts of Lao Tzu coming through these commentaries. The book, as 1B edited, consists of 81 chapters, divided in 2 books. So this is consistent with the historical records, divided in 2 parts. The first part, chapter 1 to 37, is called the Dao Jing, the classic on Dao. And the first word in this part is Dao. The second one, from 38 to 81, is called the De Jing, the classic on De. And the first word in this part is De. Probably this was the main reason for this division of the book. However, in the midst of this discussion about when the book of Lao Tzu was written, and was it written by Lao Tzu himself, and was this person really existed? The archaeology came here to help us something about the book of Lao Tzu. In 1973, in China, in Henan, I think, province, a place called Mawangtui, they discovered a version of Tao Te Ching, which was never known before. The tomb was dated around in the middle of 2nd century BC. So this was something that helped us to know that the Tao Te Ching wasn't written later than this period. And actually the book found there was dated the early 2nd century. The chapters, there are not 81 chapters in these versions. There are 2 versions found there, A and B, they are called. And they're not consisted of 81 chapters. Some chapters are missing, and actually they're not exactly the same as with the received version we have today. There are some little differences. And what is the most important, the second part, the De Jing, is placed in front, and the Dao Jing is the second part. So they are in different order. So some scholars who edit this Mawangtui, find in the book found in Mawangtui, they call it De Dao Jing, because first is De and then is Dao. And the things to be even more complicated, in 1993, in the province of Taipei, they also found some versions of Lao Tzu. And the tomb was dated in the 3rd century BC, and the book a little earlier than that. So by this we already know that in the 3rd century or the late 4th century, the book Tao Te Ching already existed. And of course, some chapters were missing, and there are some differences in the chapters. For example, in the received version, as we have it today, Lao Tzu severely criticized Confucianism. He says the concepts of the ideas of benevolence and righteousness, which are Confucius concepts, are actually something that we need when we lose our connection to the whole universe, to the origin of the universe. So that's why we need the morality, something that can guide us. Otherwise, if we have the connection with the origin of the world, then this kind of morality is not necessary. In the newfound text, he actually talks about something else. He says, instead of benevolence, he says artificiality. Instead of righteousness, he says severity. I forgot. Okay. Anyway, there is more, not that strict opposition or contrast to Confucianism. But anyway, since these books were found in the 20th century, the whole influence of Chinese culture, development of the Chinese culture, philosophy, history, art, religion is based on the received version. Today the scholarship still tries to interpret Lao Tzu in this version, although add up with the new found versions of Tao Te Ching. Now, I mentioned philosophy and religion So, there is a question, what is Lao Tzu's teaching? Is it a philosophy or a religion? Okay, we say Lao Tzu was founder of Taoism. So what is Taoism, philosophy or a religion? So there is one misconception to say that Taoism is only a religion. To say that Taoism is a religion is not a misconception, but only to exclude philosophy is a misconception. As I said before, He Shanggong commentary comments on Tao Te Ching in a way to bring in a way that Lao Tzu was talking about long life, in a way that Lao Tzu was talking about immortals, to become an immortal. So that's the religious part. In the Wang Bi's interpretation, there is Lao Tzu was talking about the sage, the person who has the knowledge of the origin of the universe, and he doesn't talk about long life. So there are two different things that come maybe from one source. They don't mutually exclude each other. Today we still have what we see outside called Taoist religion. And then maybe you would ask, why Lao Tzu is so accepted today in the world? Among scholars, among ordinary people. In China there are two philosophies, Taoism and Confucianism. So they come from Lao Tzu and Confucius. Both scholars study both of them, Lao Tzu and Confucius. But there is kind of like more interest towards Lao Tzu, towards Lao Tzu's philosophy. And if you ask yourself which is the most translated Chinese book in Western languages, the answer is Tao Te Ching. Which is the most sold book in the whole world? There are two competing, Tao Te Ching and the Bible. So Confucius' book is not here among the competitors. Why? Why Lao Tzu rise the interest in the West? According to my understanding, I think there are two things that are interested for some Western scholars and other lay people in the West. The first one is Lao Tzu's so-called mysticism. Mysticism is very hard to define. You can find many different definitions in every dictionaries, in internet, everywhere. In the West, usually it's said that mysticism is a teaching that makes a person to have a union or connection with God. It's usually related to religion. But Lao Tzu's mysticism was not like this. Lao Tzu talked about the origin of the world, that there was something before the world, and he didn't know what is it and how it looks like, and he didn't know its name. So he just used this word Tao, which is really not a name for something that is the origin of the universe and that is the origin of ourselves. So this is probably not so mystical, but what is the mystical part is that he introduces the concept of non-being, of the concept of nothingness. And he says that the source of the universe is the nothingness. The nothingness becomes being, and then the being become the whole things. You don't have to think in time. You have to think in logical order. It's not that there was first a being, and then after some time there was, or first non-being, and after time being, and after some time the whole things. It's just a logical order. And why is this the concept of non-being? Why is so makes Westerners to like Lao Tzu? Well, Western philosophy usually, since the beginning, in ancient Greece, they already eliminated the concept of non-being. That was Parmenides who said the being is one, and there is no non-being, and that's it. Since then until now, in Western philosophy, there is no non-being. Probably some exceptions, some mystical philosophers, yes, but the main course, the non-being is eliminated. So this is one point that probably Westerners are attracted by Lao Tzu's philosophy. And to add up to this is that Lao Tzu says we cannot express, we cannot explain by language the origin of the world. This is also different from Western philosophy, because in the Western philosophers, they want to use language. They want to make sure that with language you can express everything, even the origin of the world. And this is where they are different. Lao Tzu says, no, the language is not possible. She says you can call it Tao, but Tao is not the name, and actually you didn't do anything by calling it Tao. You don't know actually its real name. The second thing that I think is interesting for Westerners is his practical teaching. In his practical teaching, including the political thought, Lao Tzu introduces a term called Wu Wei, which literally can be translated as non-doing, having no action, which is contrary to Yo Wei, which means having action, doing something. This is something that is not known in the West. For example, in the politics, Lao Tzu says that the best ruler uses Wu Wei. He's not using Yo Wei. The best ruler does nothing and lets nothing undone. This is one of the things that no one in the Western political thought or Western philosophy at all haven't thought of it. Maybe there is a similarity with the term laissez-faire, but also there is a little difference. And here I would like to say one misconception about Wu Wei. As its literal meaning is having no action, it's very easy to think that you have to do nothing at all. Just sit there and do nothing. In the West, this is a very, very basic misconception. Of course, not among the scholars, but among lay people who are interested in studying Lao Tzu. Wu Wei is also an action, like Yo Wei is also an action. You still do something. Lao Tzu says, if we translate Wu Wei as do nothing, then he says, do nothing and let nothing be undone. So by doing nothing, you still can do everything what is needed to be done. Okay, if it's not non-action, then maybe it's spontaneity. Another misconception. It's not spontaneity. Because spontaneity means what? Letting things do what they want, or let things happen as they happen. So you do nothing. It's also going to be do nothing. Spontaneity. By spontaneity, you can also involve some immoral actions. Because if you do something that is immoral, and if someone asks you why, oh, it was spontaneous. It was Wu Wei. No, that's wrong. Wu Wei is not a spontaneous action. Lao Tzu says that the ruler of the government of the country has to use Wu Wei. That means that the ruler also have intentions, like the other rulers who use Yo Wei. He also have intentions. He also have plans. How to do, how to work, how to help people, or whatever. But by his actions are not Yo Wei. Yo Wei can say coercive. His government is not coercive government. His government is Wu Wei government. For example, Lao Tzu says, if you have too many laws, too many taboos, then too many thieves in the country can arise, can show up. I want to give an example how to understand this. We all know that in the 20s or 30s in the United States there were the prohibition, 20s, right? Okay. So the government that time thought that alcohol drinking is bad or selling is bad, so They prohibited. And what happened? One taboo came and more thieves showed up. So instead of making peace, making the country peaceful, this law made the country more let's say unpeaceful and dangerous for the other people. Okay. Well, the act of prohibiting alcohol has nothing to do with Wu Wei or Yo Wei, but the act of interfering of the government, deciding to do that suddenly, that's a coercive act, which makes people react on it, and then more thieves arise or show up, as Lao Tzu says. Okay, so Wu Wei is supported by Lao Tzu's two concepts: weakness and water. So for Lao Tzu, weakness and water are metaphors for the action of the sage, of the person who understood the origin of the world. There isn't one anecdote. Lao Tzu says, he asked the student, tell me what is the strongest and the weakest thing in our body. The student says the strongest are the teeth, and the weakest is the thumb. Tongue. And then Lao Tzu says, okay, so why now I don't have my teeth, which are strongest, and my weakest thing, the tongue, is still there? This is a metaphor that the weak will overcome the strong. But in which way? You shouldn't understand this in the way of science, of physics, that the weaker will overcome the strong. In a way that the weak finds its way to overcome the strong. The weak is more flexible. The strong is always there and never gives up. The strong will stay, never go a step behind, will always confront. But the weak can find other ways to attack the strong and defeat it. The same with the water. If the water comes to some obstacle, the obstacle stays there and doesn't move. But the water doesn't press the obstacle. It will just go around the obstacle and go its way. And this is the way of Wu Wei action. So there is still action. It's not just non-action and spontaneity. Last time there was a good example. I want to use it, not last time, but when Michael gave the speech on nomadic cultures, nomadic space, like how to use the space, the example with the James Bond movie. I haven't watched that movie, but when I heard the example, it immediately reminded me of Lao Tzu. When James Bond chases the thief, and the thief is he's a gymnastic something, and he's going around the obstacles. He finds an obstacle, jumps, and so this is the way of the weak, the way of the water, and James Bond is the strong. He never gives up. He goes, if he sees a wall, he just goes through the wall. He doesn't want to go around. Yeah. This political, let's say, thinking of Lao Tzu, that the government should do less, as actually should do Wu Wei and do nothing undone, is today very much used by anarchism. That's a political theory in the West, and the anarchists believe that the state should be without government, or at least there should be like non-authoritarian coercive power, that people can bring the decisions by themselves, and they don't need any authority to lead them and govern them. And usually today, like all these anarchist organizations, they praise Lao Tzu all the time. They say that he was the first anarchist. And even in the scholarship, there are some people who claim that Lao Tzu's political thinking is anarchist theory, which I don't totally agree. Because if you take Wu Wei as an action, whose action is Wu Wei? Wu Wei is action of the ruler. So Lao Tzu opposes a coercive government, one that uses force, legitimate force and violence to govern the country and the people. He doesn't reject the force itself. Lao Tzu says the ruler uses Wu Wei, and all things are done, and then the people think that they've done it by themselves. So that's the whole point of Lao Tzu. Like, the people, they really don't feel the pressure of the government. They think that everything they've done it by themselves. But actually it's the ruler who made them do that. On another way, there is a metaphysical difference between anarchism and Lao Tzu's philosophy. Anarchism lacks what is usually called ontology, which means thinking, theory about the order of the universe. Anarchist metaphysics centers on the human soul and the human heart, and says that people by birth are good, in generally speaking. General, I mean about all the anarchist movements, that people are born good. So because they are good, they can have a state without coercive government. Lao Tzu doesn't talk about people being good or bad. He doesn't talk about the heart. He talks about the origin of the world, which we can call it Tao. And from this, as Tao orders the things in the universe, the sage should be a mirror of Tao and order the things in the state. Lao Tzu says, he says, my words are very easy to understand and very easy to put into practice. Yet, no one under heaven understands them. No one puts them into practice. But my words have an ancestry. My deeds have a Lord. So ancestry and Lord, these things denote the origin of the universe. There is the Tao who orders the universe. So the ruler imitates Tao and also orders the country in the same way. I think this should be so far what I have to say. So welcome questions.